What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for May 5th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Happy Cinco de Mayo for all of those who celebrate. Just a quick little history lesson because that is my background. I know a lot of people in the United States go out and say, hey, let's get drinks for Cinco de Mayo. Let's do this, let's do that. But it's actually a very important holiday for the Mexicans. It's a celebration of their their victory in the Battle of Puebla against the French. While yes, it's a Friday, it's supposed to be nice. Go enjoy yourselves, have fun, but make sure that you go and learn something about the Mexican culture. I know that over the years in the United States, it's starting to grow more and more as a celebration of Mexican culture, which I'm all for. The more we know about each other and the people that are around us, the better. Clear up some misconceptions, whatever, and just make sure that you have fun, you be safe today, but go out and learn something about the Mexican culture and just expand your horizons a little bit. So happy Cinco de Mayo. All right, a couple housekeeping things from yesterday. Hopefully you listened to yesterday's podcast. If you did not, go back and listen. Yes, I did say it was February 4th. I have no idea why, but it is, in fact, the podcast for May 4th. Not sure where that came from, but it is May, not February, even though I said it's February. We talk about what happened in this day in Philly sports history for yesterday. Also, I incorrectly, and it is just a slip of the tongue, but I said Brian Boucher had all those saves for the Penguins. No, he had all those saves for the Flyers against the Penguins. So I don't know what happened yesterday. I was just a lot going on this week, so I was just kind of rushing through. But I assure you, it is the podcast from yesterday for the correct date. Also, another quick housekeeping thing. I recorded and posted the Eagles draft pick recap on Back to the Future, so that is there to check out. So be sure to give that a listen. Back to the Future with a PH, wherever you get your podcast, as well as the YouTube video is up as well. All right, so big news today is the Sixers, Game 3. Joe's going to get the MVP award before the game. I really think that crowd's going to be fired up. I don't see the Sixers playing as poorly as they did. Part of it was the rust from Joe. Everybody else seemed like they were moving in slow motion. They couldn't hit a shot. This is going to be a battle, don't get me wrong. But I think they come out. I don't necessarily, barring something crazy happening, I don't see how the Sixers lose this. I like them tonight to win outright. They're getting 2 right now, so definitely going to hammer a bet on that. And when they win tonight, we actually will win the plus 2.5 games in the series bet as well. So things are looking good for that. Looking forward to this game tonight, and it's every game is important, but this is a pivotal game because now you have home court advantage, and you don't want to get to the point where, okay, it's Sunday now and your back's against the wall and you have to win to keep the series alive. So come out today, do what you need to do, and then we can focus on Sunday. As I said yesterday, let's just micro chunk this series down and take it game by game. And right now, this is the game that we need to win. Everything is lining up for us to win this game, so let's just go. One thing, too, I heard Doc say about the loss, because I've heard some people say, oh, well, they got blown out, the series over, and this and that. And again, he's really impressed me the past few weeks. So, and you know how tough I've been on him. But he said all the writers and everybody's they're always looking for an explanation of why you lost. And sometimes you just get your butt kicked. There's nothing to explain. We just move on. That's our mindset. And I like that. Especially in a 7-game series, you know how they always say you have to have a short memory and in sports, and you can't focus on this, can't dwell on that. That's how you got to be. It was just a shitty game. They lost. They got what they needed to do done in Boston. We move on. So, but it is a Boston versus Philly weekend. The Red Sox are in town to take on the Phillies, and I don't know. I mean, I kind of everybody always talks about, oh, we hate the Mets, we hate the New York, the Giants, blah blah blah. But I think the Boston, I guess because at least in baseball and football, they're in a different conference. But the Flyers, Boston, Bruins, and the Sixers Celtics are a good rivalry. And I mean, this rivalry goes back to colonial times. I mean, it goes back to Ben Franklin. The most famous Philadelphian ever was originally from Boston. So they felt they were the most important city for the Revolution. Philly, obviously, we were, because that's where the Declaration of Independence was signed. But hey, so anyway, just kind of having some fun with that. So it's Philly versus Boston this weekend, and I don't know. It's gonna be a tough series for the Phils too, but hopefully we can send those Bean Eaters back up with a couple losses and a little bit wounded. Eagles, big news for them. They signed Jalen Carter to a 4-year contract. They signed a couple of the rookies yesterday, but Jalen Carter obviously is the big main one, which is huge. And we talk a lot about him on that Back to the Future episode, so be sure to check that out. But speaking of the Phillies, and they on this day back in 2015, they lost to the Braves 9-0. The Phillies had 3 hits: Ryan Howard, Cesar Hernandez, and Grady Sizemore. Reliever Elvis Araujo pitched a scoreless 6th inning, had 2 Ks to the 5 batters he faced. That's important because last week we talked about Gene Conley, who became the tallest player to ever play for the Phillies. Well, Elvis on this day became the heaviest player to ever play for the Phillies, weighing in at a whopping 275 pounds. He had 2 seasons with the Phillies where he pitched 72 games, had a 4.35 ERA. Both of my kids were very, very young during this time, so I don't even remember him playing. There were a lot of times I didn't watch the Phillies or didn't catch the Phillies because I was too busy changing diapers and chasing a 1-year-old around. But on this day in 2015, Elvis Araujo became the heaviest player. Notice we're not saying fat. We're saying heaviest player to ever play for the Phillies at 275 pounds in a 9-0 loss to the Braves. Had a solid career for a crappy team back then, so we'll take it. But staying with the Sixers Celtics theme, we are going to go back to 1965-66 and highlight the 65-66 Sixers. That year, they went 55-25. They won the NBA's East Division. It was their 3rd season in Philly, so this is the first division title they had while in Philadelphia. We'll talk later this month about when they moved from Syracuse. But on this team, the team was stacked. Wilt was the leading player. He had 33.5 points a game, 24.5 rebounds per game, and led the team in assists with 5.2. Hal Greer, who was also a Hall of Famer on that team, averaged 22.7. And speaking of Hall of Famers, we talked the other day about the Hall of Famers on that 80 team, but Billy Cunningham played on this team as a rookie. Chet Walker, Wilt Chamberlain, Hal Greer, and their head coach is also a Hall of Famer, Dolph Schayes. So that's 5 Hall of Fame pedigree players on this team. Wilt was the MVP. Dolph Schayes was the coach of the year. Wilt was all NBA first team. Hal Greer was all NBA second team. Billy Cunningham was on the all rookie team. Unfortunately, they lost to the Celtics in the division finals 4-1 now for the 2nd year in a row. Now, the division finals were basically like the Eastern Conference Finals. There was only 9 teams in the league at this time. So the NBA was literally in its infancy. But they would get it together, and they would win the title the following year as one of the top greatest teams to ever be assembled. That 66-67 team. During this playoff spotlight, I should have mentioned the other day, I'm not going to spotlight that team or the 82-83 championship team because we've talked a lot about them over the course of the past few months. But that 65-66 team won the division, lost to the Celtics in the division final, but would go on to win the championship the next year. Elvis Araujo became the heaviest player to ever play for the Phillies on this day in 2015. Let's go Sixers. It's a fuck Boston kind of weekend. So this has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Friday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.